Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today, February 16th, 2022, we are continuing our coverage of the ongoing situation between Russia and Ukraine. And obviously, now we are in that reported window of when the Western intelligence agencies indicate that there could be a possible Russian invasion of Ukraine. Now, at the same time, we continue to hear both of additional Russian deployments to the border areas, which we are really seeing is Russian forces moving from staging areas that are a bit away from the Ukrainian border, closer to their actual phase lines of departure into Ukraine. At the same time, the Russian Ministry of Defense is stating that they are, in fact, withdrawing some forces. So, what I wanted to do is first look at the force construct that the Russians have set up for a possible invasion of Ukraine. And again, all these assets may not be used. They may be used in phases, and some of these assets may be designed to pull Ukrainian forces from other areas of Ukraine where some of these other assets will have the better initiative in terms of executing its operation. So, first and foremost, right now, the general consensus is the Russians have anywhere between 135,000 upwards to 170,000 military personnel, and that's going to be both ground forces, air forces, naval assets within the Ukraine area of operation. So, more likely than not, what we're actually looking at is about 100,000 ground force personnel that could be involved in actual ground operations. And what I wanted to have a look at is just how these forces are kind of broken down in terms of what that looks like, and how we believe at MFAM that actually looks. And I'm going to start up near the Belarusian, Ukrainian, Russian border, the tri-border area, in which we're seeing both Russian forces start to accumulate in Belarus and at the same time along the tri-border area. So I'm going to designate this as Core A. So this force is going to be anywhere from 30 to 40,000 troops that gives the Kremlin the option of both shooting down on the west side of the Dnieper River and also shooting down the east side of the Dnieper River, utilizing a really a multi-domain strategy of both air assets, air assault assets, Spetsnaz, and obviously mechanized ground formations as well. To the southeast, directed towards Kharkiv, is Core B. And again, these are not designations used by the Russian military or the Ukrainian military. These are just my designations to try and make it more simpler for the average viewer. So in Core B, again, you have more, I would say, a heavy mechanized element, an armored element in Core B as opposed to Core A. And Core A, running from Belarus to Russia, is while they do have battalion tactical groups that are mechanized and armored, they also seem to have quite a bit of both Spetsnaz and VDV formations. Core B seems to be made up of larger armored formations, armored divisions. You're probably looking at on a low end two motorized rifle or mechanized / tank divisions being deployed in Core B in this area again. And this force is really designed to come down and quite possibly shoot around, encircle, envelop Kharkiv, and again shoot down and quite possibly cut off the Ukrainian forces that are squared off against the Eastern Separatists in the separatist areas that are currently active in those areas of southeast Ukraine. The next area is Core C, and this would include both separatist forces and elements of the 150th Mechanized Motorized Rifle Division. It's a reinforced motorized rifle division, to include other assets as well, that obviously would launch its attack in a westerly direction, to engage Ukrainian forces that are built up and assist the Russian separatists that are operating with Russian officers in eastern Ukraine, at the same time making a move to quite possibly engage and encircle Mariupol and continue to head down the coastal highway. And then finally, you have Corps D, which is based out of the Crimea. Again, we're seeing large elements of Spetsnaz and VDV formations, special operations, airborne assets that could be operating out of Crimea, along with some of its heavier motorized rifle battalion tactical groups that have been moved in from the southern military districts as well. So when the Russians talk about withdrawing forces, we really have to look at what we're seeing, and we've really seen two different video footages of possible redeployment of Russian assets. We may have seen elements within Corps B and or Corps C, and that video footage is of just a handful of tanks. And again, these are older T-72B, BV type T-72s that are being loaded on railheads, and we never really see them move. So quite a few armored vehicles, or I'm sorry, not very many armored vehicles being loaded in that video footage that indicates that they are withdrawing forces. The other movement that we've seen is down here in Corps D, in terms of assets that are deployed in the Crimea. We've seen roughly one company of T-72 main battle tanks that were deployed. That's about 9 tanks, 9 to 10 tanks, deployed on a railhead and then moved out. So in the grand scheme of things, considering you have what would constitute 4 fully operational corps being deployed against the Ukraine, watching one understrength battalion in total from Corps C and Corps D being moved to a different location, and we don't know where that location is at. It could be completely staged. They could have just moved it across the Strait of Kerch and then brought it right back. Again, you just don't know. But the important thing is intelligence services right now are saying that they're not really seeing much movement in terms of forces being pulled back. On the contrary, what we're saying is a lot of these forces are being moved from staging areas located further inside of Russia and being more forward deployed to their designated phase lines and their estimated accesses of advance into Ukraine. And that's what's currently happening right now. Now, whether we'll see this actually take place in terms of a military operation, again, very difficult to say. You do not know what's in the mind of Vladimir Putin, and not just Vladimir Putin, a lot of his inner circle as well, because the fate of Vladimir Putin is also tied to a number of individuals. And that leads into another topic that I wanted to talk about, was the whole idea that we keep hearing in some areas, that if Putin backs away from this, he is putting himself in a position where his regime could, in fact, fall. And I would say that is probably not the case, and I'll try to explain. So again, there's quite a few individuals, both military, intelligentsia, and even what you would define as corporate Russia, that are tied very, very close to Vladimir Putin. And if Vladimir Putin falls, obviously a lot of these individuals who also have quite a bit of power in their own right, being in high positions of authority inside of the military, the National Guard, the intelligence organizations, the regime security organizations. It's not going to be an easy transition of power in terms of if that actually occurs, meaning Putin is looking to be thrown out of power. It's going to be very, very difficult to do that because he has instituted certain regime protection practices that would protect him and his inner circle and outer circle from being overthrown. And those are kinetic tactics and strategies that have been instituted that, if that were to be the case, and if there was some sort of some sort of mass uh, rebellion or a quasi revolution taking place at some point, or even a individual within that inner circle that tries to make a power grab, he's in a position to very, very rapidly uh, cut that to pieces. And again, that is, we have seen the Russian National Guard become directly under his command. He has the FSO. He has a lot of tools that directly report to him that he can use to stamp out resistance. And a lot of these tools are very capable, and in all likelihood would follow his instructions to the T, because they are directly their fate is the same as Putin's fate. So if Putin falls, the heads of these security organizations, or certain security organizations, are going to fall too, and not just them, the folks under those command structures as well. So that concept that if Putin pulls back, he's doomed, don't think it's the case. And I hope I did an okay job explaining that. And then again, if he kicks off this operation and it's not successful, again, a wounded army is not a happy army. So again, the possibility of that occurring in terms of some sort of battlefield military defeat, I would say, could be actually more likely than if he pulls back his forces and has to eat crow because he didn't do anything. But again, that's just my opinion around that. And if we do see a military operation underway against the Ukrainians, again, it's going to get nasty. It's going to be medieval in some places, depending on if the FSB and the SVR, the Foreign Intelligence Services, and the GRU aren't able to pay off some of these Ukrainian military commanders to jump ship and come over to the Russian side. And I don't think we're seeing that as of yet. And I think that is the hesitancy that we're seeing on the part of the Kremlin, because the Kremlin isn't sure yet that it can launch this operation with guaranteed success. And that is concerning, I think, the inner power structure of the Kremlin. But again, we continue to hear about these forces that could be withdrawing by the Russians. Again, what we're seeing is really nothing in the grand scope of things. When you consider you have elements of possible 4 reinforced corps, 100,000 troops, ground forces that are in staging areas to jump off into the Ukraine, seeing a company or even an understrength battalion are being redeployed, quite possibly is simply a reserve component. A tactical and or strategic reserve component is fairly normal. Again, if this operation takes place, the battlefield commanders, the warfighters of the Russian army are going to want to have those reserve battalion tactical groups to exploit breakthroughs, and completely normal in warfare. It's completely normal to maneuver forces around the battlefield, and that's simply what he's doing right now. And again, we're not really seeing a withdrawal of forces that would indicate that this thing could be de-escalating. So that's my take on it. We'll have more later. Have a good day, everybody.